right, episode 124. We're going to try this. Take 2, the death of Zillow and what real estate agents can learn from that. We're going to get started right now with no intro.
Apparently. It appears Derek Kaufman, if you're watching this, it appears somebody bought the rights to the music in our intro.
Yeah.
Because we were just on, and all of a sudden we had 12 people watching, and it dropped to 0, and then I got an alert that said, Regal Entertainment Incorporated says you can kiss their ass. We own this now.
Y'all think you live in a free country.
It's either that,
start a podcast.
It's either that or the term Zillow.
Or Zillow.
So we're going to find out. We'll find out on that.
Quick.
I'll tell you.
But as we redo this opening intro, today's show is brought to you by 2 of our great sponsors, right? Old Mortgage Mike. MortgageMikeOfTexas.com. If you're looking for that Mortgage Mike stamp of approval, you're needing to get a client loan approved here in Texas, or maybe you got a client relocating from your area to the Texas area, get them connected with Michael DeBacker, MortgageMikeOfTexas.com. And Brian had a good testimonial.
Absolutely. Our other sponsor, we're playing Inside Baseball now. That's Homeward Property Management. And as I was saying before, the powers that be shut us down. We're just super excited about this new venture. We're super excited about our property management company. Dana Wynn, our head property manager, has so much experience in the field, has managed over 100 properties on her own by herself at a time before. And we just kind of married these 2 ideas of what do great real estate teams do at a high level, and that's systems and operations and client facing or client experience and what is lacking in the home in the property management space right now.
Which we said
which is everything.
We said before we got killed originally on this podcast is that property management sucks a fat one, right? Right, which it does.
And we're gonna re-up right now. It does.
And yeah, we're gonna hammer that and make sure that it's constant communication. It's making sure that the landlord is taken care of, the tenant is taken care of. We know it from us owning our own. I have close to 300 doors, right? We know how to run a property management company properly. And so your client will be taken care of. So if you're a real estate agent, you're looking to refer a good property management company here in Dallas-Fort Worth, go to homewarddfw.com. So let's go back and roll into this. How the death of Zillow, right? So Zillow, their iBuying program, their Zillow offers, they announced, it was like back at the beginning of November.
First week of November, yeah.
And they announced that the reason why they were no longer buying properties is that Zillow announced that it was no longer going to be buying any more homes this year. The company said there was a labor and supply shortage that made it impossible to handle all the homes that they had purchased, right? So that was at the beginning of November. Then it starts rolling out that they are scrapping that altogether.
Yep.
Right? Because what ended up happening, what had happened was is we were overpaying for houses.
Yep.
And then we had the labor shortage and then the supply shortage, and they were starting to lose money on the resale of those owned properties.
100%. And then they cited an inability to predict market conditions and things like that. This is, I don't want to go too far down a rabbit hole here, but anybody who thinks that I want to so badly.
It's been 2 months.
I'm rereading the book When Genius Failed right now about long-term capital, a hedge fund in the mid 90s. And man, it kind of lines up so perfectly. The premise though is a lot of times when the smartest people in the room get so convicted in their ways, they set themselves up for ultimate failure. The problem that Zillow ran into is that market conditions are inherently unpredictable, right? I think someone on this podcast, if I can identify an episode, I don't remember, back when we were sitting at a sideways table over there, talked about how if the market conditions changed, your cash outlay at any given time because your velocity wasn't fast enough to continue to resell these houses fast enough, it was going to change everything, and then your whole business model would shut down. And it did happen. And that's not saying that Zillow isn't smarter than me. They are. We all stand very close to the mirror. A lot of people could have predicted something like this. Now, not a pandemic, of course, right? But it wasn't about the pandemic. It was about the symptoms of the pandemic. Could have been caused by any number of factors that helped the market shift, right? Just a general market contraction, right? Based on, just an overbought or an oversold market, like a very hot seller's market that contracts and turns into a neutral or buyer's market. Like a lot of things could have affected this, right? A couple of things that I really want to dive into, those. One, if you're a realtor or a real estate professional listening to this right now and you're just dancing on the grave of Zillow, you're missing the point of this entire story. One, Zillow is not dead. Like the tagline, I'm sorry, the headline of this episode was bait and switch as always. Zillow's not dead. Zillow offers was not their main revenue source. Their main revenue source was still selling you leads. It always has been since 2006. And where I think people are missing the biggest part of the story is, although the Zillow offers business model was very flawed, it was flawed for a very, very specific reason. And that was not only are market conditions unpredictable, Zillow couldn't keep up with their own success. And that's actually the damn truth. One of the fastest, the main reason, outside, I would say, the pandemic that affected market conditions, because market conditions aren't as effective when you're charging a service fee on every transaction. That's how Zillow was able to buy a house and still sell that house for $5,000 less than they bought it for, which was absolutely happening, at least here in North Texas, right? And we've all seen that, and still make money, right? Market conditions were one factor in it. The bigger factor was essentially supply, like logistical chains, supply chains, and their inability to turn over houses quickly enough to still maintain a profit. Their cash outlay became way too big, and they realized we're never going to be able to turn these houses as quickly as we can. They're just going to sit. When I say cash outlay, Zillow wasn't paying cash for these houses. Yes, they were cash offers, but they have financiers, right? And so they probably have, debt that they need to service as well. And if they don't get things done with enough velocity, then their whole business model starts to fall apart. And that's what happens. And I know that's why that's what happens, because Zillow didn't just sit on the houses and wait for them to be renovated. They started liquidating all of their assets. That means that you have to pay back your debt. When you're liquidating your assets, you have to pay somebody, right? So at the end of the day, Zillow was too successful too quickly for their own good. Zillow offers was. And so we can all dance on the grave of Zillow, but they weren't failures.
No, they were, well, to get in it, they were buying the market, right? So they were overpaying and they were cool. It's the Walmart model, right? So they were cool with just making a little bit of profit. So, it says, I just Googled, how does Zillow make money? Right. So the executive summary of this: Zillow is a real estate company that offers various products targeted at both home buyers and sellers. Its services include, amongst others, advertising tools for agents and other real estate professionals, a home buying business or marketplace to advertise homes for sale and rent. So Zillow makes money by flipping homes and charging a sale fee, collecting fees for leads, as well as the interest it charges for its home loans. The business model of Zillow is comprised of three distinct segments, namely homes, IMT, and mortgages. So whatever IMT is.
I love how they snuck like that middle one in there. It's like fees for leads. That's like 82% of their revenue.
Yeah,
that's like their whole business model is selling information to agents.
But the Zillow wanted to, because what Zillow was worried about, as should most of these lead service companies, is that there was always a concern of technology disrupting real estate agents. And the less real estate agents you have, the less leads that you can sell, which means less revenue for them, right? So they wanted to get into
a self-cannibalizing business model.
Yes, and so they wanted to get into the buying process and ultimately make it like a homeowner that owns a car. Most people don't sell their cars through private sales.
Yep.
They go to the dealership, they trade it in, they go get a new car.
Yes.
Right? And so ultimately the disruption that has been trying to happen is trying to make the real estate transaction model very similar to the auto sales process.
Man, I love having these conversations. It's so, and put it in plain English, Zillow's ultimate outcome. And Rich Barton will even tell you this. We've listened to a lot of podcasts that he's been on, right? Friend of the show, I like to think, in spirit. The business model has always been, let's attract a ton of unique visitors to our site that has universal search capability, sell those leads to agents to create upfront revenue, and then eventually remove the agents from the equations over completely and have those unique visitors just buy and sell with us. In the plainest English, that's how it's always been, right? It wouldn't have worked in the beginning because you actually have to get people culturally used to selling their home or buying their home through a platform, right? Like Zillow is a digital platform. So your revenue source in the beginning is just to attract a lot of unique visitors and sell those leads before you can create and normalize people selling directly to Zillow. And
that's what real estate agents need to realize is when we talk about like the dangers of Zillow and all this, I'm not particularly concerned or scared about Zillow, but what I do recognize the fact that Zillow has figured out they've figured out a way to be the cultural reference for real estate, right? We don't call Kleenexes tissues. We call them Kleenex. Understand that's a brand name, right? Like Kleenex isn't what the product is called, right? Like Zillow has done the same thing. You're going to Google it, right? Like Zillow has done the same thing for real estate. What they've done really great is intertwining themselves culturally. And where real estate agents need to be concerned is not just with this recent Zillow failure. It's the further we get into the fact that there is a group of consumers who start to accept the fact that these things can be done digitally and they don't need an in-person representative. That's where your income comes under assault. And you need to be really, really nimble in the market to find other streams of income, other value propositions that are not the same old bullshit of I have keys, I have the ability to get into a house and you don't, because that ain't it anymore.
Yeah. Before Matthew Soto talks about what's your thoughts on Google local services ads.
Ask you about that.
Talk about that in a minute, but I do wonder, do we think that Zillow's done with the iBuyer program?
No.
Right now, it's
Why
kind of
would
like
The
you
market's not advantageous for them to do it right now.
Could you imagine just throwing in the towel on something? Like what we're going to get into in this podcast is at its core how wildly successful the Zillow iBuyer program was.
Yes.
No, they're not done.
Do you know how many seller leads they were generating? Right.
It's gotta be an absurd
truckloads.
Here's what could happen within that. Right. And let's see if it goes ever that direction. Right. They're generating that many seller leads. All they have to do is flip it into, what we talked about at one time, that Zillow could just easily flip it into a true brokerage that then has salaried agents. Now they've got those leads. They have either the listing, kind of the way OfferPad does, or even now Open Door offers it. And if they go back into the true iBuyer program, which we all know that they will, this is just a dinosaur that went to sleep. Everyone thinking it's dead, right? It's just sleeping.
Yeah.
Right. Then, if we think of it like they're trying to make this like the auto industry, then eventually do they get into like a servicing style where you buy a home from Zillow, it's certified pre-owned.
Certified pre-owned.
That offers 2 to 3 years unlimited warranty or whatever.
Yeah.
And we come in and replace it because they start offering these now.
It's actually a really good idea.
Yeah. Now they come in and not only are you selling your house to Zillow, they're coming in with their trusted contract professionals, because as the market turns, what happens to contractors? Contractors are going to want more work because right now they have a plethora of work to choose from, but eventually that will start to dry up, and then they'll go start hiring their own contractors. Then from that, they've got a whole service team.
Yeah.
Now we talked about controlling the entire process. They control it from the lead because they are the brand name more than even Realtor.com and the Realtor Association. People go to freaking Zillow. So it goes from start, then they go to start looking at houses, Zillow Mortgage, Zillow Agent Services, Zillow iBuyer, Zillow Insurance,
Zillow Title.
Oh, by the way,
Zillow Moving Services.
Yes.
It's just fucking endless.
Yes. They become the Amazon portion of this.
Yeah.
And now they're just retweaking, right? So this is how the number one question is, while it's sleeping, you've got Google Local Services, which was cool in the beginning. I'm going to tell you right now, it's saturated with bullshit stuff.
This is an area where I'll claim mad ignorance. I don't have any idea.
Matt doesn't even know that we do this.
I don't. Small plug for all the stuff we do. Half the things that happen on our team,
good.
I don't even know are going on.
It's way more expensive than actual just Google pay-per-click, which really only uses Google as an intermediary to get to your actual native website. And you're right. Honestly, it's been weird. Like just in the last 3 months or so, it's gotten way worse. Like it got saturated really, really quickly.
Yeah. So Google Local Service was cool. We were doing it at the beginning of last year.
Yeah.
And these are verified leads.
Yeah.
Right. And if the lead comes in and it's not within, let's say it's spam, let's say it's not in your service area, let's say it's a rental lead, you can go and request a refund.
Yeah.
And 99% of the time you get refunded on that lead, right? And it's usually the people that are going and Googling that's coming through as a verified Google local lead is further down the home selling or home buying funnel, right? So last year we kicked out decent amount of home sales from it.
Yeah.
But what you have to do is you got to go get verified. You got to upload insurance, and you've got to then from there. It's about the Google reviews.
Yeah.
And so what I notice is how that became bullshit really, really quick, and how real estate agents can wreck everything and they just ruin shit, is that then they started going and getting fake reviews because Google does not verify reviews. So there's people in our marketplace.
Not on the air.
Well, there's a fucking brokerage in our marketplace that has a shit ton of reviews and they don't sell that much.
Yeah.
That's true.
Right? mean,
I think I might know who you're talking about.
exactly. Yes. But yeah, so I mean, I think Google's just testing it out right now. They don't need to make money from it.
Yeah.
But the Zillow is the sleeping giant that's retooling, retweaking, and what they will come out with is something better.
Yeah.
And it could truly be a knockout punch, or at least stuns the industry enough that agents that don't have their shit together, they're out of business.
Well, and like you said, like this like everybody dancing around like Gaddafi just got freaking killed or something is like ridiculous, right? Like the reality is like all Zillow just did was learn a really expensive lesson. And if you don't think they're going to use that infrastructure to come back in this space retooled and stronger than before, right? Like this is not something that you're done dealing with.
Yeah.
Right. Like you are going to continue to deal with the iBuyer in general, but Zillow's footprint on that iBuyer probably sooner than later. As soon as inventory issue calms down, I think you will see them storming back in.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the business model, look, it would have worked in a different market environment. And all they need to do is retool what their strategy looks like.
It's not an inventory issue, by the way. It's supply chain and labor shortage.
Yeah.
That's what's wrecking it because they're buying so many houses.
All tied together, though? Isn't all of this mess tied together?
Not really.
Okay.
No, I don't know. Supply chain and labor shortage is not 100% tied to the lack of inventory.
I think it's all tied to the current world we live in the COVID response, right? Like, I think Zillow just did this at the wrong time.
I think it's I think it's amplified by it, but I don't think the inventory shortage is anywhere due to right now supply chain or labor shortages.
Okay. Yeah.
But what I do think is, like, again, if you're buying houses, like even a small time, home investor flipper right now is struggling because you still have to either go get hard money or get a loan, and hard money and loans they don't care about the labor shortage. They don't care about supply chain issues.
Yeah.
You're still paying that rate. Mm-hmm. Right. So what if you could easily turn a flip in let's say 90 days, now it may take them 180 days. And so if they're buying on slim margins, because they're like, hey, I can flip in every 90 days and I have enough lead flow coming in. I don't have to make as much because I can do X number of deals a year, and it makes sense.
Yep.
Right. But now it's taking them 3 months longer than normal.
Yep. And
so their holding costs are that much more. And so now they're having to buy it for that much less. Yep. Or they buy it and now they're losing. Now they're just sitting there with a dumbfounded look and saying, well, I'm either going to break even or I'm going to lose a little bit of money. And then it knocks the little investor out.
Yep.
Right. And so this whole thing, the ripple effect is not good.
Well, it's not. Like, one, this is what you and I had a conversation. We kind of talked about this from the beginning. Like, one of the biggest reasons we shouldn't be quote unquote dancing on the grave of Zillow is because the what it says about the broader market environment right now, or what it could mean for the broader market going forward. Right. I think the other thing to consider, and one of the things that we should be diving into as far as how it relates to the actual real estate professionals, individual businesses, is we love to talk about how Zillow fails as far as, you can't remove the human element. And yes, you can't entirely remove the human element, right? And you can obviously understand how the world and the effects of events on human beings' lives affect even automated businesses like Zillow's iBuyer program, right? When your cash outlay gets too large and you can't get homes turned fast enough because human beings, which create supply and logistical chains, are backed up, that creates real issues, right? There's still a human element to every business out there. I think the question that we need to ask ourselves, rather than just gloating like a lot of real estate professionals are doing, is why was Zillow so successful that they literally outkicked their coverage so far that they're liquidating $400 to $500 million in assets because they can't turn them quickly enough, right? How did that many people in such a short amount of time decide that they no longer needed a real estate agent and they would rather sell to Zillow?
Isn't a large part, and this is one of the things that we were dealing with boots on the ground. Part of that has to be the fact that Zillow not only outkicked their covers, they were also willing to write checks that other people weren't willing to write. I mean, like, part of Zillow's success in this, as much as I don't want to get excited about Zillow falling apart, is the fact that they did some really stupid shit. I mean, we were going in listing appointments and having people show us their Zillow contract. And I was like, yeah, I don't think the market's going to bear that price.
But
right? Like,
all right. Hold on. Let me ask you a question.
Why would that person care?
Well, no, they don't.
No, they don't. But let me ask you this question, because Josh DeShong brought this up. Why do you think that what Zillow is offering was not true market value?
I mean,
if you get enough people to agree,
you get enough people to agree. Doesn't the fact they're liquidating
Believe in
half
yourself.
$1 billion in assets prove?
Well, no, because that was a supply. A lot of this has to do with supply chain and a supply chain and labor shortages. They didn't have enough. Tell
me how that doesn't prove they overpaid thow. Like if you can't sell it, then
no.
Because you have to tell me there's something different.
All right, so there's 3 parties involved. Who was Zillow's financer?
I don't know.
It's got to be somebody back. It can't just be one bank either. I mean, just
Keller Mortgage,
right? Okay, so essentially it looks like this. Call Zillow a fucking hedge fund. Okay,
Right.
what's it say in a hedge fund? There are 3 parties. There are the hedge fund itself, which essentially borrows money from investment banks. You know, your JP Morgans, your UBS, all that type of stuff. Your Deutsche or whatever, right? They make trades, and essentially they take their investors' money as well. So you got to be rich to invest in a hedge fund, let's just say. And they're going to leverage your money by borrowing more money from investment banks, make massive returns on that pool of money, and then pay you out based on what the overall investment strategy made, right? So Zillow is the same way. Zillow would essentially borrow money from their financier, buy homes, try to flip them fast enough that they pay whatever their interest rate is back to the financier. They profit the difference. There's a crazy simplified version of it. And what happened is it's not about home values. It's about the time that this takes to actually flip the deal. That is to make the trades. Let's just say that a hedge fund is trying to pay out their investors, but they can't trade anymore. Nobody will buy the other side of their deals, right? It's the same thing that happened with Zillow. If they can't flip their homes and turn their homes quickly enough, those notes become due. That's a really, again, that's not the right terminology.
It's your holding costs.
Right. Your holding costs become too great. It's not about the value of the homes. It's about your ability to take them from, we purchased this, we've got to do light rehab, get it back on the market, sell it, and get it closed.
Because they're making slimmer margins. Right. So you've got slim margin here in order to hit profit zone.
Yeah.
The longer that they have their algorithm to say, all right, on average, we can turn a property in 35 days.
Right.
Right now, let's say that doubled to 70. Well, now that eats into their profit zone margin.
Yeah.
And then ultimately now the supply chain is kicking up their costs because they were basing any repairs or paint or labor costs. Right. Now that's gone up. And so they're not able to predict what their true acquisition costs, their buying costs are, and now they're in the negative.
And then at the same time, you have probably the hottest sellers market in our lifetime, where in here in North Texas, home values rose like 23% last year. Yeah. So you have a shitload more people than normal say, I'm ready to sell. I'm just going to click this button and sell to Zillow because I don't even need a realtor. My home's worth so much right now. So they actually became too successful at the wrong time because they couldn't turn the homes fast enough. But it didn't have as much to do with the market value of the homes. And I think Josh and Nick are right. You get enough people to agree to sell for a certain price, you've just created the market. Isn't that what making markets is? It's just getting enough people to agree to sell for a certain price, and now that's how you make a market. We
even do that on a lesser level in this market where you're going into people's living rooms and trying to convince them to sell for more, right? Like, I guess, and again, in my dumb brain, like I understand what you guys are saying, and just the fact that they couldn't execute on the game plan because of supply chain logistics and poor timing in the market shows that they overpaid for the house, right? Like I get what you're saying. It has nothing to do with market conditions. Maybe it's a word that I don't understand. Maybe it's a poor understanding of future potential whatever.
How would it have been different if they paid less for the homes? Would they have been able to turn them faster?
They may not have been able to turn them faster, but I guarantee, wouldn't they have been able to hold on to the asset longer in order to have the time to then get the supply chain issues under control and then sell the house?
Yeah, but they still don't know they don't know what the labor and the supplies are going to cost.
Well, isn't a lack of understanding about the market kind of, or not just the real estate market, but lack of understanding about how the market's going to react to other items? I know it's not necessarily overpaying, but it's still. Still, you fucked up business.
But it's also true that it doesn't really matter what you pay for a home. You still need a certain amount of manpower to flip that amount of units.
And maybe, and again, that's probably the part of this where you guys have a much larger understanding of what it looks like to flip it. If Nick was to have bought a flip property yesterday, just one, right? And we've had agents on our team literally quit real estate because they can't pay for the flips they bought because they got overzealous, right? So let's talk about Let's talk about a situation where Nick, clueless, right, buys a house thinking like, oh, I can remodel this bathroom for X and I can remodel this other shit. And then he can't, let's say you just can't find anybody because nobody's really willing to do it for that little.
Right.
It doesn't have anything to do with the fact that people don't exist.
Right.
They can't do it. Will we not look at Nick and be like, you overpaid for that house, dumbass?
Well, think about it this way. What if he wasn't trying to fit the house? Then would he have still overpaid for it?
No, but now I think it's a different
Let's say
conversation
that
because Zillow wasn't trying to be a landlord.
If I can afford my mortgage and I'm just remodeling and I'm going to stay there, did I overpay for the house if it takes me longer to remodel it?
No, definitely not.
But
right.
But at the same time,
I don't think that was Zillow's business.
No, it wasn't.
No, it's not. But what Josh and even I started to really come to understand is that, and Open Doors done the same thing, is that real estate agents are looking in the past, and when they're like, when I go meet with you, Matt, I'm like, well, if I look at past numbers, then your house should really be here, and we're actually pricing home sales usually.
This conversation I can get behind.
Usually,
this I understand.
Usually within, maybe we're pushing the limits a little bit over past sales numbers, but most real estate agents go a little bit under what homes were selling for in the last 90.
Most real estate agents need a paycheck,
right? And so what
fact.
Open Door and what Zillow has done is they're future casting where they think appreciation is, where they think demand is, and they're like, all right, I can buy it at this price because in between this gap, I know that I should still be able to sell it at this with this X amount, and hopefully gain more, get someone maybe on the Zillow mortgage.
At least the difference is Zillow was putting their money where their mouth is. Real estate agents are hoping someone else will when they price a house.
And that's why I told Nick, I completely agree. Like that part of the conversation, I understand completely.
That should be
like,
one of those quotes that comes
we
up on
do,
the screen.
as real estate agents, if you're not acting in a nimble manner and looking at numbers and looking at trends and those types of things, you're at the very least operating 30 to 45 days in arrears because that's the data you have.
Yeah.
Right? Like even if you're just going with whatever you have access to, right? Like I definitely understand Zillow taking a chance and looking at future appreciation. Now understand, we're in December, guys. The inventory issue ain't changing anytime soon. We're not gonna have an influx of houses in the next 70 days, which means we're right back in the spring market. So Zillow early last year, if you're telling me somebody at Zillow predicted that and just knew home prices were going to keep running and they were buying houses in January, knowing by June they would be worth a ton, that by June of 2022, they would be worth even more. If that was the case, now I'm having a completely different conversation because that's something that real estate agents typically don't do at all.
Well, no, because real estate agents are again, they're a fiduciary to their client, and they're also trying to price the home in a way in which it will attract a massive amount of buyers. The difference between that model and Zillow's is Zillow is just trying to predict what everybody else in the home buying market will do in the future and putting their own money on their own bet, right? So they like Nick said, they're future casting the market. So it's a totally different pricing strategy, right? Or a pricing strategy / buying strategy when it comes to Zillow, right? I think the lesson to take away, or maybe the conversation to get into regarding how they're able to do this, though, is we all just kind of talked about this, right? Like, yeah, maybe they were making offers that were a little bit high or whatever. At the same time, they are very open about the fees they charge and all that type of stuff. And they were able to buy up tens of thousands of assets across North America. I think that the biggest lesson to take away from this is how was essentially a series of algorithms and minimal human friction able to convince so many home sellers that they were the better strategy for selling or liquidating that asset, really just in the name of convenience. What can real estate agents learn from how convenient Zillow made the process? Because one of the things that drives me crazy about real estate agents is they all consider themselves market experts or local experts and all this type of stuff, and they get frustrated with people or companies like Zillow because they don't know what they're doing and this, that. Why do you care so much whether or not they know what they're doing? Doesn't it matter at the end of the day whether or not the consumer is going to sign with you?
Well, that's all it is.
Then what the fuck are we talking about?
Yes.
Because Zillow was wildly successful in getting people to sign with them.
So, so let's talk about how while the giant is sleeping, how do you capitalize on it, right? So let's
punch it in the eye.
Yes. Well, doesn't that wake him up?
I think it does.
Yeah. I think. Yeah.
Maybe have like a half goat.
What's the term? Let sleeping dogs lie.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's let them lie.
Okay, we'll do
that. So, so let's call yourself the market expert. Are you truly a market expert? Are you actually researching what's going on in the marketplace?
Most of you know you're not.
No. And guess what? You're not having these conversations. You're not listening to this show because as you know, we actually have some good viewers right now, people commenting and tagging agents. So thank you for that. And if you're listening to the replay, make sure you leave a 5-star review on this and go to our Facebook page, the only real estate group we're being a part of. But with that is you're also not you're not listening and really understanding because you took some bullshit class at your brokerage that said, how do you run comps? Right. And your comps is 90 to 180 days. Mm-hmm. Right. So you're still running off of that model and you're still posting, hey, I'm in a contest to see how many people I can talk to run a home value and who wants a free CMA.
Yep.
Right. And so you're still running it off of past comps. And so from that, what you need to do is take this and understand that the technology real estate companies don't give a fuck about that. And so to be the market expert, you need to talk like a market expert, which is understanding what is selling, where do you think home prices are going, and be bold about it. Make some predictions on it, right? Do you believe that, you know, I asked a question in the real estate group, do you think listing inventory is going to increase or decrease in 2022? There's I already know the freaking answer.
Of course.
Like, do you see some of the responses we have in that group?
Yeah.
Like, didn't someone say like, go be a boss or something?
You did, yeah. So somebody started jumping your shit like you don't understand real estate.
Yes, that was hysterical.
Yeah.
Oh man, I wish we could pull that up.
I don't know if the person was directing at you or just in general making a comment about go out and make your own inventory and those. Types
it was
of
a long-winded way of saying I don't have anything intellectual to add to this conversation.
So from that, you need to go and understand how to talk to the consumer. Because here's the thing. Why is the consumer going to Open Door? Why are they going to Zillow? Why are they looking at that other avenues other than the real estate agent?
I will tell you, and Brian and I talked about this regarding some other stuff the other day. We've moved to a society of convenience. I mean, hell, I do it, dude. Look how many apps I have on my phone that are just for people to deliver me shit. You know what I mean? Or tell me a thing. My Siri is so adept. You know, she might even wake up.
Let me interrupt. Yeah. Speaking of that, Domino's just did a commercial where they went out in the marketplace and bought like in certain areas and bought like $1,000 gift cards and gave them to their to the local businesses, to local business around there, and gave them to like I guess the delivery people that ordered, so that they want Domino's is pushing people to stop ordering through apps, to get into and buy local, and stop the delivery fees right through those.
I believe it. They're expensive. I mean, dude, here's the thing is, and now they're all competing with 7-Eleven has an app. You can go on the 7-Eleven app, order stuff from their store. They outsource it to Grubhub, I'm sure.
Yes,
and then end up having Grubhub come by and snag some stuff, tack a times 100% fee on there.
Yep.
Because if you're ordering something from fucking 7-Eleven, you probably are just like, look, and I've done this. I've ordered $6 worth of stuff from 7-Eleven and paid $15 for it because I just didn't want to drive down the street. And they know who they're catering to. So to answer your question, as we move into this world where people are more used to having things brought to the door, COVID has exacerbated this situation on an even higher level, right? How do you become the real estate agent, actually, I'll be honest with you. From an individual real estate agent standpoint, I'm just telling you, you can't do this. You are not big enough to put the infrastructure together to become the one-stop shop for your clients. I know you think you can. I just tell you can't, because there are people out there doing it a much more massive. You can do client events. You can send them stuff. You can call them every quarter, and you're still not sniffing what massive organizations can do from a inclusiveness standpoint for their clients. But that's what people are looking for. They're looking for an all-encompassing experience where they don't have to leave your world. And I think this is one of the things that, look, I've shitted on this show before. This is one of the things that Command was attempting to do and fell so flat on, right? Was they were trying to make an all-inclusive consumer experience without telling the consumer they needed them to show up for it, right? And that was the biggest mistake.
Well, no, it relied on the real estate agent to then go tell the consumer, and the real estate agent.
Oh, shocking.
Yes.
Yeah, you take 150,000 people of varying degrees of marketing ability and conversational ability and then tell them to go out and tout your product. And that didn't work. That's fucking shocking.
Well, that's the problem. Like, again, where Zillow wins is that Zillow is the brand name. Like, we Google something. Like, do you go to Ask Jeeves, or what is it? Who goes to Bing?
No,
right?
Is that even still running?
Bing is. I mean, you can actually go run some good pay-per-click ads on Bing. But
is Ask Jeeves?
Nick bringing knowledge.
I hope Ask Jeeves.
You're going to get all 6 of the people on Bing coming to your fucking website. I can tell you that right now.
Hey, while you're on Bing, Ask Jeeves. See if he's
see if he's
there.
Yes. So I mean, that's the thing is that with Zillow
Still
is
exists, but it's a .net.
yeah,
Ask Jeeves is now a
.net. But
oh my God, look at this.
No, go to the one below it. This is a bit.
No,
go to the one. Go to ask.com right there.
It's
No,
still not
Ask.com is
Ask
real.
Jeeves though, bro.
That still looks pretty brutal.
yeah, that's old school. That's old school.
That's not good.
But Zillow is the name. Like Brian and I listened to that podcast, and they came up with that name. They didn't want it to be connected to anything else. You get a Zestimate, right? And so you got the eyeballs. We've talked about this on previous shows. When you've got the traffic, Keller Williams, EXP, Remax, the broker people aren't just going to Remax.com. They're not just going to coldwellbanker.com. They're going to freaking Zillow.
Think of how big of a miss this is for these brokerages too. And I'm not going to go too far on this because it turns over some shit that we've been thinking about. But the reality is the consumer sits there and doesn't think about
I hope you're watching this
EXP,
podcast,
Keller Williams, or Remax, the biggest names in real estate currently, I would imagine. We'll throw Coldwell Banker in there, so I'll put Compass, whatever. I don't piss anybody off. Who cares? But my point being is all of these massive brokerages, right, still are not the consumer source for going and searching from. They look at that, they're like, I'm going to use a Keller Williams agent. I'm going to use an EXP agent. I'm going to use a Coldwell, but they don't go to any of your websites to try and find homes. They go to Zillow and then screenshot you the house that's probably pending and text it to you.
It is a fundamental disconnect in the way that two different camps of real estate companies were built. And man,
don't even tell them. Don't tell them.
But how can
regardless?
So why don't they come together the way? So let's go back to this Domino's thing, right? So Domino's said, hey, by the way, during the pandemic, 110,000 U.S. restaurants closed permanently, right? And while a lot of them are struggling, so Domino's Pizza franchisees recently joined forces to put their money support behind locally owned eateries while encouraging others across America to do the same. So what they did is they purchased $100,000 worth of $50 gift cards for restaurants of all kinds in their local communities. Then they were given out through the month of November to about 2,600 randomly selected Domino's delivery customers. And they were encouraged to use these cards and skip the food delivery apps, right? Like Uber Eats, Favor, etc., because that eats into the profit of the mom and pop shops. So why are real estate industry professional, like why are companies not coming together to solve that problem? Domino's franchisees are going and buying technically their local competitor.
Their local 100%.
And saying, go buy from the mom and pops.
Not only go buy there, but inconvenience yourself by driving there and doing it, right? Like they're kind of doubling down on like, don't even use our convenient model. Like we used to have the Noid, right? Like we drive fast at Domino's.
Remember the Noid?
Don't even deal with us at all. Like just go go to Cotton Patch Cafe and get a chili or something.
Does Cotton Patch Cafe have good chili?
Do they?
That's
I don't know,
specific
bro.
reference.
I've been eating a lot of chili off Favor lately. So that's what I have to bring to the conversation.
I love.
First off, wait, hold on. Who gets chili delivered?
Oh, bro, I get
what?
I am telling you, I get
such a dangerous thing to drive around with. You're one short stop away.
I get everything delivered. Like I had Instacart deliver me some groceries the other day. I had Market Street deliver me some medicine for Luke last night. Literally like child's Claritin.
You and Heather are y'all deserve to be together when it comes to just the online ordering, because she'll be like, what do you want for dinner? I'm like, I want this. The kids want this. She's like, that's all right. We'll just order from here and order from here. I'm like, the delivery fees are more. They're more than the freaking.
I like
food
going
itself.
places too. It makes me feel useful.
I had this conversation with my ex-wife a couple of years ago, and she was like, hey, I want to order like some Cinnabon or something. And she was like, it's $20. And like in my brain, I was like, I don't care. All right, go ahead and order that. She's like, it's $12 delivery fee. I was like, no, that's too much. I didn't care if she paid $20 for cinnamon rolls. But once I found out it was $8 for the Cinnabon and $12 for the delivery, I was like, now you're just absurd.
I can't even get my groceries delivered. I used to do it, and then I'd feel so awkward when the person came and I was home, and it was just like, I always felt like the person was like, oh, you were home this whole time. And
that's why you brought my shit here.
Sit there and watch them unpack my groceries, and I'd just be like changing channels on the TV. I feel like such a terrible person.
They come inside?
Yeah, they come inside.
What?
Bro,
you have the greatest delivery person
for
ever.
You to deliver my groceries, I'm not coming to meet you outside. I might as well just gone all the way to the store.
Outside of getting my rims stolen, my building's so secure, they can't even deliver my shit there. I got to go down 4 stories.
Order from Whole Foods. They'll come inside.
Yeah, Market Street does their best too.
That's their tagline. We'll come inside.
We'll even stay over.
That's fucking
all
hilarious.
right. Look, there's ways that agents can capitalize on the death of Zillow. So if you want to continue this conversation, you should really go over to our Facebook group, the only real estate
100%.
group worth being a part of, as well as just go support the sponsors because they want the death of Zillow for you as well.
Yes.
So Mortgage Mike, he really dislikes Zillow. 100%. Unless you love Zillow, he loves Zillow.
Yeah.
Right? And he will give that Mortgage Mike stamp of approval. Just go to mortgagemikeoftexas.com and tell him that Kelderman sent you.
We gotta get that stamp sounder, just like a big old ka-chunk.
And I want it
every
on
time
the-
he says stamp of approval, just a big old stamp goes across Nick's face.
Yes.
And it's like, doo-doo.
I really want that for I want people at closing with his closing photos.
He wants to know something.
Yeah, I want that as a closing photo that he carries around that big old stamp. I'm
Just
telling you, it needs
way
to be
too big.
Yes,
We should figure out if we have any metallurgists. Is that a
Metallurgist, I
Yeah.
think is a word.
I think it is a word.
Is it?
If we got any of those out there, hit me up and tell me what it costs, just like with some cheap ass piece of metal to make like an absurdly large stamp
Yes.
with Michael DeBacker's face printed on it, and we can have a
Yeah,
conversation.
the
'cause
stamp
I'm
won't
actually
even say approved. It'll just be a stamp of DeBacker's face.
take it to all the closings
Yeah.
and just like
Yeah,
instead of holding that like like what the hell do all those signs say? Like love my realtor,
my
like,
realtor rocks.
Yeah, my realtor rocks. I do those. We just got a big ass freaking chunk of metal with DeBacker's face on it.
Yes. No, it needs to have approved with his big old smiling
that'd
face.
be
Right.
fantastic.
That'll be one of the O's.
Yeah,
Right,
Approved.
metallurgists reach
Right.
out.
Yeah.
Yes,
the only
and then look, go send some landlords, go send some investment opportunities over to Homeward DFW. That's the newest property management company
Yes,
here in
Homeward
Dallas.
DFW.com. We're going to be running a big referral contest here very soon. So
$100
check
deals, yeah.
out the only real estate group worth being a part of on Facebook for more details on a badass referral contest that we're going to be running. We talked about the prize. I can't remember who was a Bugatti or a Remarkable. But it was one of the two.
Take your pick.
Yeah,
Whatever.
yeah. Well,
All right, boys. I've enjoyed it. I took it back to the natural lime White Claws for the show today.
Yeah.
I enjoyed 1 1/4 of those. So
There you
that was
go.
nice.
It's good to be back.
that's
I
a
know.
little bit less than normal. So
It is a
we
little
gotta,
less
we
than
got to
normal.
get back in our normal.
I do
routine.
all my drinking at lunch on Wednesdays before the podcast.
That's what
and
I
get in
heard.
here
That's
and
what I
kinda
heard.
just
Yeah.
I dial it back a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah.
So.
Oh.
Whatever.
No.
Well,
Jesse, get us out. Thanks for watching the show today. Make sure if you're watching this on Facebook, you head over to our group, the only real estate group worth being a part of, so you can watch the extended conversation. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And if you listen on the Apple Podcast, leave us a review. We'd really like it. So just do it. Do it. Do that over there. Go to this one. Then go to that one. Thanks.